Welcome to the Solitary Founder. This is an attempt to catalog my story as a solo tech founder. Today is day one. I'll count yesterday as day zero. As all techies, we'll index by zero. But did a lot of errands yesterday. Nothing too exciting. But I did do a lot of work in trying to figure out my domain name and company name and things like that. But let me start and I'll rewind a little bit and talk about what I'm going to be focusing on. So yeah, I my primary focus as a startup founder, at least Pivot Zero, is going to be focusing on developer tools that are optimized for um, improving the velocity for open source developers, but also useful for enterprises as well. After all, enterprises are where the money's at. Um, so this is, I'm using this startup as both an opportunity to address um, many gaps that have, quite frankly, pissed me off over the years, particularly on GitHub. Um, but also learn everything I can across both non-technical and technical venues. So yeah, I've been working on a vision statement. Thanks to Claude here, I'll show an early iteration of what this vision statement looks like here. Um, you know, it's all about amplifying human capability and you know getting out of the way here. So uh, I talk a little bit about the power of open source communities, but also how AI is fundamentally changing how we develop code and how we interact with code. This is not going to be an AI focused startup by any stretch of the imagination, but when I will be abusing the hell out of AI to get things done. Um, I do believe in the power of platform diversity. Um, I don't think supporting Linux or supporting open source communities stops at supporting Linux. I do want to dig into some of the other alternative operating systems, nano kernels, unikernels, and platforms. Kubernetes is not everything, and pushing to AWS is not everything either. So, um, I am. I think when I try to think about the the core principle behind my startup is that simplicity scales and complexity breeds insecurity and generates a lot of unnecessary overhead. So a lot of what I'm trying to do is um, build tools for the simple path um, and um, free developers to focus on their individual problems that they're trying to focus on and not all of the other crazy monotonous BS that you have to deal with. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Um, so let me get back to my notes here. So one of the things I've been challenged about is figuring out domain name and company name. I actually went ahead and registered a company name here in North Carolina. Um, Tentatively called it Code Happy. I did find another business that had the same name, so I am still on the lookout for other names. I did register a .ai domain name, but I kind of feel like .ai domain names feel a little sketch to me. Maybe this is like my old curmudgeonly self that is like very against AI will fix everything type companies, or at least companies that sell themselves that way. Um, so I'm looking for a .dev domain. And here's where things get interesting, and we're gonna dig a little bit into some technical weeds here, but I hope you're here for that. So, um, So one of the things that I've typically done when searching for a domain name is doing, looking up all dictionary words in a particular set of TLDs. And I've got this really gnarly old set of scripts for doing this. And I started to revert back to this. I've got this domain finder utility that I wrote at least 12 years ago at this point, and it kind of gets to the underbelly of how whois how you actually look up which domains are registered, so if part of the ugly part here is that whois is not recursive, unlike DNS. You've got so what this is doing is it's running the whois command against a particular whois server that is appropriate for a particular TLD. And this is actually, in fact, if you look at the logic in FreeBSD, the whois implementation here, you'll see it actually does pretty much the same thing. It's got a set of whois servers that it knows about, and if it doesn't know who it is, it will try to guess it by using the tld.whoisservers.net. So it's actually fairly similar to my code here, because once upon a time, whois implementations did not actually do this kind of like lookup. You had to do it yourself. Now, what the hell is the whois protocol? It is truly old school. It is going back to RFC 812, which is from, I believe, 1982 by Keith Herenstein, who also, worked on a bunch of networking RFCs early on. Let's go ahead and we'll do a whois request, and we'll kind of look at what this looks like on the wire. So you do whois.ncsu, you'll get, here's who owns it. You'll see that it did this lookup on the IANA. It got a referrer, and then it, I guess, did use some recursion, although it's not natively supported. But let's look at what does this look like on the wire or on the wire. So whois runs on port 43. This is how you know it's an old service. All right. So what does it look like on the wire? Let's go back to whois.ncsu.edu, and we'll see a bunch of cool stuff here. Let's see, Wireshark is not resolving host names, but what you can see, if you look carefully, is it sent this whois query ncsu.edu to this IPv6 server, and then you'll see later that it changed which IPv6 server it was using, and that's where it took that reference information. The thing I've really found interesting, that works great for the edu case, but I was interested in .dev, and if you look up .dev, or chainguard.dev, for instance, you'll see there's no refer. It turns out that .dev does not support whois. Even if it's run by Google, they've explicitly chosen not to support this, I guess 45-year-old or so protocol. So what is the whois? So we can see it interpreted by Wireshark here, but what does whois actually look like? I'm going to go back to, we can see where it was using the Educause database, or it started at IANA. So let's go to IANA and do the same lookup for ncsu.edu. So yeah, you can telnet to it. That's basically how most of these protocols worked back then. And csu.edu, oops, I was too slow. So you can see it didn't return very much information about, it didn't return any information about ncsu.edu. It just returned the information about edu educause, because it is giving you this reference, and you're going to have to manually go ahead and telnet to this, because on the protocol level, it does not support recursion. So there, now we looked up the same thing. But there is no whois server for .dev. So I couldn't rely on my Ruby script to go ahead and find these domain names. One of the funny things I noticed, two funny things I noticed while I was trying to poking around is, so the whois protocol, like telnet, uses /r/n, CRLF combination. And this actually stems back way from the early 70s, like 1971 or so, RFC 158. It turns out that just like the new line wars of, the modern era where Windows uses /r and Unix uses /n, it's been going on for decades, over 50 years of arguments about which of the two ambiguous new line characters should be used. So in the RFCs, they decided to equalize the pain on everybody and make it so everybody had to, that all these early protocols use /r/n. So, and I think that started with telnet, but you'll find it in whois and I believe like SMTP and other these early TCP-based protocols. So if we can't use, my first thought was, hey, you can't use the whois protocol to look up if a .dev domain is taken or not. So, but what you can use is classic DNS. So again, we do host chainguard.dev. You'll see it's got a bunch of addresses. You can, specifically pretty much every domain name registered is going to have DNS servers attached to it. If it doesn't, then it's pretty worthless. You can't do a DNS against it. So, I'm thinking, all right, let's look up for each domain if it has NS records, and if it returns NX domain, then it's available. That's cool. I didn't want to write Ruby. I wanted to write this in Go, and in fact, I was really lazy, so I decided to use an LLM for all of this stuff. Now, my favorite dev tool today is Zed as an editor, and although you'll actually see kind of a failed version here. So I basically got Zed and together with the Claude LLM to write this entire program, and really what it started with was this simple prompt: write a Go program to iterate over a Word file, do DNS lookups, see if it has NX records, and display if it's taken or not. And caching is very important, maybe less important for DNS than whois. The whois protocol is really slow, and actually this is one of the other quirks I realized when I was trying to use NC to poke at a whois server. You'll notice that this actually returns nothing. We actually have to tell netcat to sleep for a second. Oh, it's not S, it's, what is it? Oh, it's I. Okay, we actually have to tell netcat to sleep for a second so that you get some sort of response back. Otherwise it exits, but I digress. So, so I had the LLM write this program. It actually did a wonderful job. It wrote about 400 lines of Go for me with caching. Used this crazy JSON caching infrastructure. I ended up having it, asking it to Here I asked it to remove this like over-engineered progress update output, sort things in alphabetical order. But the cache was the craziest implementation that it came up with. It was like temporary JSON files that it kept writing, and copying over itself. I had it swap out to use a SQLite database for caching. It made a lot more sense and it was much faster. Big fan of SQLite. Oh, here we go. Let's see if I can find that prompt that I used. I don't know. It's somewhere in here anyways, but eventually what I realized was that the caching implementation was, we got the cache right. That was grand. But I realized that it was also returning some false records. Like it was falsely listing some domains as available, even though I knew that it wasn't. And so to kind of give an example here, I'll run through the program real quick, but so all right. Oh, it's actually going to be broken at the moment. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that then. We'll talk about that failed attempt in a moment. But basically, what I saw was, I got some output here. What I saw was for some domain names like say a.dev, it said it was available. Yeah, a.dev, it said it was available. But I know it's not. And, I know it's not because I just went to name.com and it said a.dev. What's going on here? It says make offer. So probably not available. And this is when I noticed, the whois output is not different because it's actually not looking it up. And I saw some reference to this other protocol called RDAP, which I'd never heard of before. And it turns out that there is a very simple HTTP protocol. It's got a very simple REST API. It's interesting here. This is interesting that a.dev is also technically not found here. It does return a 404, but also not purchasable. That's interesting. I was not counting on that. Well, that's very interesting. But going back to this, if we use the RDAP protocol, we can see that, chain guard does exist, and it actually does have, you can see here it's registered via Squarespace. Most of the stuff is redacted, but here you can see the various expiration dates. So RDAP, RFC 7482, written in 2015 by the folks at VeriSign. Makes sense as a protocol, pretty easy. Don't even need to authenticate. But things got really screwy here when I was trying to figure out like this a.dev case and actually now I'm even more confused that I see that RDAP says it's available. But maybe they're just reserving the single letter domain names. But I tried to get, oh, here you can see it's actually still going. I actually tried to get Gemini to add RDAP support to this program, to add a flag. And it actually went in circles. Yeah, please add an RDAP flag to add verification against the RDAP database. And so it tried a bunch of libraries here, and I suspect it started hallucinating. Oops, like this library doesn't even exist. You know, I was actually hoping it would actually just, you know, use the RDAP protocol directly and not try to use some third-party library, because it's not necessary. So couldn't fetch that RDAP library, so I tried this one instead. That one doesn't exist either. So I found this really fascinating, and I think part of this is, you know, maybe caused by, I did switch from Claude to Gemini halfway through. I ran out of Claude tokens. But basically, it's the thing that I thought really fascinating about this is it basically sat for half an hour trying to resolve its issues of trying various RDAP libraries, and it never got anything that worked. I don't know if I can cancel this or anything, but so anyways, so this is first day of the journey. I did go ahead and isolate down a list of, you know, 200 or so domain names that I really enjoyed. And I am trying to go through those today. I also did experiment with like asking Claude about Claude and Gemini, like to pick some, you know, meaningful ones for me, but it turns out that they are not good tastemakers. They give you a lot of factual output, and but it missed a lot of really obvious domain name choices. So I will, maybe now that I have like narrowed it down a little bit, maybe it'll pick some good ones for me. So let's see here. So cool. So if we do, all right, so we got a bunch there. We'll sort for uniqueness. And we'll do an experiment here where we'll ask both, here, actually, desktop, guesses. All right. So we've got that in. Let's do this experiment of Claude as a tastemaker and see. Let's see. Given this vision statement, which of these domain names would be the most meaningful yet? Sorry for my slow typing. I've got a broken finger. Convey a sense of happiness. And we'll try the same for Gemini. So yeah, it actually gave some pretty decent recommendations here. That was much better than when I dumped the list of 70,000 domains, that's for sure. So I like filtered by hand first. I mean, I did take some of the early suggestions, but yeah, let's do the same on here. And I'm going to upload my vision and my domain names and see what matches. Gonna basically give it the same prompting, but let me make sure I download the latest vision statement. You can see my giant history here of other attempts where it actually did, I don't know, fairly poorly, I think, on its suggestions. So, and it also wasn't filtered by what was actually available. So, we'll see about hopefully Gemini there. All right, so here's a couple of you know, completely different suggestions, but I think they're decent suggestions. So so anyways, this catalogs the day one. I still haven't written any code yet. That will be when I've decided what my GitHub repo and domain name will be. But hopefully by tomorrow I will start kicking that around. So thank you everybody for joining the Solitary Founder. I hope you learned something interesting, technical, and until next time.